Painting and Ethics by Eaton. The opening question in Eaton's essay is one about the ethical value of works of art. She is asking whether the ethical value of a work of art can affect the artistic value of that work. Though she does not bring up this distinction until the end of the essay, it might be worth discussing three broad approaches one might have relative to the effect that the ethical value of a work of art can have on that work's artistic value. The first position she discusses is one that she calls separatism. According to separatism, the ethical and the artistic value of a work of art are entirely separate, meaning that whether or not an artwork is ethically good or bad has no effect on the artistic merit of that artwork, and conversely, whether or not an artwork is aesthetically good or bad has no effect on that artwork's ethical value. Moralism is the next point of view Eaton lays out. According to moralism, the aesthetic value of a work of art is identical to the ethical value of a work of art. In other words, a work of art is aesthetically valuable insofar as it is ethically good. It is aesthetically poor to the degree that it is ethically reprehensible. Ultimately, Eaton will argue that a perspective she calls ethicism is the correct perspective. This is the view that the aesthetic value of a work of art can be affected by the ethical value of that work of art, but that there is more to the artistic or aesthetic value of a work of art than can be found if we only evaluate that work on ethical grounds. Her essay as a whole can be seen as an attempt to argue for the importance, but also the limits of evaluating the artistic or aesthetic importance of a work of art based on our ethical evaluation of that work of art. What makes a work of art ethical or unethical? Eaton is asking about the relationship between the ethical and the artistic value of a work of art. To fully understand this issue, we also have to figure out how, and even if, we can judge a work of art on ethical grounds. For example, what would it mean to say that a work of art is morally reprehensible or morally corrupt? She offers a few options of what it might mean to say this. Option number 1. Her first option that she offers is that a work of art might be ethically reprehensible if it was painted by an ethically reprehensible person. For example, Hitler famously created some watercolor paintings that have survived up until this day. Most of these paintings represent historical buildings or idyllic landscapes. Should these paintings be seen as immoral because of their origin? Eaton argues no. It is the painter who is evil here, and not the painting. Option 2. A second option Eaton gives is that a painting might be reprehensible if it was created under ethically reprehensible conditions. She imagines, for example, a painting created with forced labor by oppressed children. Again, she will argue that it is the conditions of the creation of the work of art that are evil here, and it would not make the painting itself morally bad. Option number 3. A third option given by Eaton is that a painting or other work of art might be considered ethically bad if it depicts an ethically bad thing or event, something like sexual violence or an unjust war. She is skeptical of this view as well. She considers the example of Picasso's painting of Guernica. The painting depicts the aftermath of the Nazi slaughter of the civilians in a Spanish town. Certainly the event being depicted was ethically indefensible, but Picasso was not encouraging us to identify with or to appreciate the Nazis or their actions. So the painting itself is not ethically bad, even though it depicts an ethically bad action. Option number 4. Eaton tries out one last option with which she disagrees. Maybe a work of art is bad based on the effect that the work of art has on people. For example, if Picasso's painting of Guernica had inspired people to continue the oppression and devastation of the Nazis, then, on this view, it would be considered an ethically bad painting. Because the work has instead caused peace and sympathy with the Nazi victims, it is a good painting. Eaton dislikes this approach as well, for a few reasons. One is that if the Nazis had loved Picasso's painting and used it to promote further destruction, that would not change the fact that the Nazis had misunderstood the painting. It would not be the painting itself that was ethically bad, but instead the people viewing the painting with their own evil tendencies, which caused them to misinterpret the work of art and to use that work of art in the wrong way. Eaton's answer. It is here that Eaton is finally ready to tell us what she believes is the correct criteria for evaluating the ethical value of a work of art. A work of art, she says, should be evaluated ethically based on the response that the work of art invites or calls for. Take something like Picasso's Guernica. The distorted figures and looks of agony do not invite us to appreciate the horrors that occurred there. Instead, someone who rightly interpreted the work of art would realize that we are being invited to sympathize with the victims and to be outraged at the attack. What this means is that we must have the skills to interpret the meaning of a work of art if we are to understand its ethical value. We can't simply condemn it for its author, its origin, its effects, or its subject matter.